Superheroes are not a new phenomenon, and certainly not limited to cartoon books and blockbuster movies. Takes of heroes who possess superpowers have been around since the ancient Greeks. But the superhero trend is so multi-layered. We have taken a deep dive into it and uncovered some amazing facts about superheroes you might not already know. Amazing facts about superheroes. Top 10 of all time. So before we go any further, perhaps we need to define the top 10 superheroes of all time. We are sure there will be plenty of disagreement, so feel free to give us your order of top 10 in the comments below. 10. The Green Lantern. 9. The Flash. 8. Thor. 7. The Hulk. 6. Captain America. 5. Wolverine. 4. Superman. 3. Iron Man. 2. SpiderMan. 1. Batman. Do you agree? Comment below while we move on with more fascinating superhero facts. Originally, Superman didn't fly. It was only in the 1940s that Superman sprung the ability to fly. Originally, the Man of Steel still had the ability to cross the city skyline in style, but he was actually only leaping from building to building. What changed was a stroke of luck for Superman, when a cartoonist working on the animated version of the cartoon found it too difficult to draw Superman with a bended knee crouch, needed for leaping from building to building. So it was decided to give him the ability to fly, in his ironing board straight posture we now know so well. Spider who? How do you actually spell Spider-Man? You might not have realized, but Spider-Man is actually spelled Spider-Man. The dash was a very deliberate addition by creator Stan Lee. He didn't want Superman, spelt as one word, and Spider-Man to be the same, so he differentiated the two by adding the hyphen or dash. Clearly it set them apart because Spider-Man has gone on to make Marvel history. Captain America nearly didn't exist. The superhero representing the United States itself was originally called Super American. Thankfully, his creators realized how lame that sounded and opted to change it to Captain America. Black Panther and Captain America are linked. Black Panther and Captain America share a power source. They are both butt-kicking good guys, powered by vibranium. Captain America has a shield made of vibranium, and Black Panther's whole outfit is made from it, from the top of his claws to the tips of his boots. Of course, Black Panther can afford to be kitted out head to toe, because his nation kingdom of Wakanda is home to the vibranium mines, which are the reason they are the richest comic book nation. Michael Jackson had superhero aspirations. In the 1980s, you wouldn't think King of Pop, Michael Jackson, would want for anything, but he was on a shopping spree to accumulate some legendary collections. He spent $47 million on the Beatles catalogue and then set about trying to buy Marvel Comics. He had a dream to play Professor X in the X-Men movies, but he really had his sights set on playing Spider-Man. So he approached Marvel creator Stan Lee to broker the deal. However, although Lee approved in principle, Marvel was owned by Toy Biz, and CEO Ike Perlmutter wanted $1 billion. At the time, this was a ridiculous amount, as Marvel was not the successful company it is today. Jackson was forced to put his checkbook away and park his dreams of playing Peter Parker. Comic controls. Comics entered the mainstream in the 1930s as simple stories of two-dimensional characters, and good always triumphing over evil. Towards the end of the 1940s, this started to change. Comics introduced more controversial issues and challenged the status quo. Issues like racial diversity or gender norms were included in the storylines. Parents believed comics were becoming harmful to children and driving an increase in delinquency. The larger comic book publishers banded together in an effort to save comic books and formed the CCA, or Comic Code Authority, in 1954. This dictated the limits of what could appear in comic books. Vampires and werewolves were banned, and sexual references were not allowed. Comics that complied with these conditions could carry the CCA stamp on the front of the cover as a seal of approval. In the early 1970s, Marvel challenged the code by including ruthless villains and other taboos in their comics. The content was well received by US audiences. Eventually, the seal of approval of the CCA stamp became redundant, as the subjects they stopped became less of a taboo. Who is the fastest of them all? Speed is a pretty big deal in the superhero community, but there really are only two standouts. Superman and the Flash. So thankfully, during the Flash rebirth, our questions were put to rest. Their speed was put to the test in the ultimate land speed race. The Flash gracefully speeds past Superman, taking the title. When Superman defends his performance, explaining he has beaten the Flash during other races, he is humbled when the Flash reminds him those were charity competitions to the Flash. Big money. We all know that superhero movies are big money, but you won't believe how big. In 2017, the superhero film genre grossed $4.8 billion in revenue between the three main players, Marvel, DC, and Saban. In 2018, the earnings were between $7.5 billion and $8 billion. This is 25% of all film ticket sales in the USA. If you combine the movies from the Marvel characters, the Marvel brand represents one of the highest-grossing media franchises in the world. The title is currently held by Pokemon at $95 billion. Joking around. Batman's creator, Bob Kane, didn't intend the Joker to survive past the first installation of Batman. He was pipped to die from a fatal accident, and as the most evil of supervillains, it would have been good riddance to bad rubbish. But the editor of Batman, Whitney Ellsworth, put a stop to that and made Kane leave it open-ended. He included a panel showing the Joker coming back to life. Thor's hammer. You can't imagine Thor without his hammer, but not many people know much about this mythical weapon. Firstly, not anyone can pick up the hammer. It is protected with a worthiness enchantment, so only those worthy enough can wield it. In the 50 years since Thor has been in modern comic circulation, only 5 people have been found worthy enough. Thor himself, and then Odin, Beta Ray Bill, Captain America, and Red Norval. A pretty exclusive hammer crew. Owners of the Superverse. In the 70s, Marvel went manic, concocting every superhero they could think of, and then copywriting them. They then went on to own the rights to common nouns like zombie, a word they owned the rights to from 1975 to 1996. Eventually they dropped that one though, as it was near impossible to enforce. One copyright word that did stick, however, was their ownership of the word superhero, which they jointly trademarked with DC Comics. To this day they own the word, have exclusive use of it, and you best be darn sure they go after anyone caught using it. In 2013, they sued indie publisher Kappa Java Studios for using the word. Bad influence on kids. Since the early outcries in the 40s that led to the formation of the CCA, there have been concerns over the effects of comic book content on children. In 2007, a study linked superhero culture to risky behavior and injury in children. The same year, a study linked superhero fans with more sociable behavior, while another linked superhero entertainment to higher aggression and less sociable behavior in children. While studies seem to contradict each other, some parents have gone to their own lengths to educate their schools and communities of the effects of superhero culture on children. Banning superhero dress-up because it scares other children, or gives kids the idea to jump off the top of a jungle gym, or punch another child, seems a good enough reason to sit down with your children and let them know that there is a limit to the hero character traits they were allowed to adopt in real life. Superman was super bald. The creators of Superman had originally written him as a telepathic scientist. He was obsessed with his one quest of world domination. Creators Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster imagined this mad scientist to be bald. Thankfully, it took them 6 years to find a publisher, and in that time they refined Superman into the heartthrob we all know, complete with a head of glossy hair. Lex Luthor, on the other hand, now he is a scientist that suited his bald head perfectly. What is your favorite superhero and why? Let us know in the comments below. 1. Changing heroes. There is no denying superhero films are more popular than ever before. But what is turning these superheroes into megastars? The more recent movies show superheroes in a more human light. This is popular with moviegoers who like to see their heroes struggle with ordinary human problems, even with their special gift. The newer films are also set in a shared universe, where there is continuity and meetups between places and characters, and interaction that audiences like. Visual effects also offer moviegoers more than ever before, and the only limit is the imagination of the creative, which is seemingly quite limitless. It allows such a deviation from real life that fans are transported away from the everyday to completely implausible scenarios, but with the most realistic-looking landscapes and effects.